Ice cream, get your ice cream, get them while they're cold. Oh, hi there, I didn't see you guys. A lot of you have been saying it looks like an ice cream truck, so I thought I would just embrace it. Welcome, the ice cream truck is now finished. In this episode, I'm going to show you all of the things that went into the final finishing touches. So I have to make and install the bed platform. I've got an air compressor to go in, an air vent for the fridge, new flooring, new wiring. There are so many things that I just finished off as fast as I could. They've been going on now for a long time, so some of these are jumping back and forward in time, but this is it. This is the final episode on the build of the ice cream truck. Stick around, I'm Dan, this is The Road Chose Me. Let's get into it right now. To kick things off, let's get stuck into the bed platform. Lots of people have been asking where I'm going to sleep and how does it interact with the roof and all of that. So the first thing I did, I had this aluminum frame welded up from a local fabricator. One of the things I still have never learned to do is stick steel together, and definitely not aluminum. And so here you can see my brother's laying out bed slats. These are actually from IKEA. After a ton of Googling, I see lots of people use these in their van life projects, and they result in a pretty comfortable bed. So that's what we're going to go with. And if you're wondering, this is almost exactly a queen size bed. It is 60 inches wide, which is a queen, but it is only 67 inches long. We'll be sleeping sideways, and I'll show you why a little bit later. I think it's going to be okay. So you can see pretty quickly it is already a bed with the aluminum frame and then the IKEA bed slats. Nothing too revolutionary here. And so my brother and I have just been having a discussion. We were trying to figure out whether we want to screw down both ends of these slats and if that would be a problem, because the slats actually flex a little bit when you put weight on them. They sort of straighten out because they're currently curved upwards, and they would straighten out. And should we screw down both ends of them? Because if we do that, that might not make them happy when you put weight on them. So our current plan is we're going to drill holes through the timber that is a little bit bigger than the screws we're going to use, so that there will always be a little bit of movement there, but then those screws will go down straight into the aluminum. So that is our plan. Now it is just a matter of drilling and screwing 17 slats times 2. Let's go for it. Let's make a bed. I need this bed platform to be as strong as possible, as thin as possible, and as light as possible, which is a tough balance to strike. I originally thought about weaving some webbing like those old camp chairs, but I didn't know that I'd be able to make the frame strong enough and not just have it collapse when we put weight on it. And there we have it. The bed platform is done. So they are all screwed down. I'm really happy with how it worked out. Next step, we need a mattress for this thing. Well, actually, before a mattress, we've got to have some way to support it in the Jeep. And so I had these brackets welded up, again by a local fabricator because I can't weld to save my life. And the idea here is I'm attaching them to the steel frame that runs around the top of the camper. So I've got 6 of these brackets in total, and the idea is that the bed will rest on those horizontal bits that stick out when it's in sleeping mode, or when the bed is down and the roof is down and we're driving around. Again, I'll show you how all of this works later, and you can see I used pop rivets to attach it. I actually redid this later, with much stronger steel rivets and my favorite adhesive to make sure they're good and strong. So with the help of a few friends, I managed to get the bed platform in before the roof went on. And you can see here, the bed platform actually lives underneath the bifold mechanisms when the roof is down. I have to make sure all of this stays as thin as possible to allow room for the bifolds, the canvas, and all of my bedding to fit when the roof is down. So after looking around, I found Roam Rest, a company that makes custom mattresses for van lifers and overlanders. You basically give them the specs and they will make anything you want, with any thickness you want, with any covering you want. So here we go, first test of the new bed. Oh, I like that. Oh. That is actually really comfortable. Oh, the Jeep isn't exactly level right now, so I kind of can't tell if my head's down or whatever, but this is going to work great. Obviously, I've got open air living right now, pre-canvas, but in terms of a bed, this I think is going to work really, really well. It is all coming together. I'll show you later the finished product of the bed, but for now I've got a ton of other things to get on with, namely right now, USB outlets. Pretty much everything now charges off USB, my drone, my laptop, my cameras, and so I wanted to have a whole bunch of outlets. I got these ones on Amazon and I really like them. They have 2 USB-C outlets, which are PD30 certified, so they charge my laptop directly, and then an old school outlet as well. I put a bunch of them all around the Jeep. The next thing you see me working on here is a table to have in our seating area. After asking around, everybody said Lagun make by far and away the best table mount. And so here I am mounting the base into the bench seat. And I really wanted to make sure this thing would be strong enough. There might be some weight on the table at times. So I didn't just bolt through the timber. I also picked up the aluminum frame that Goose Gear mounted. And then I mounted a big right angle bracket onto that. Using huge big countersunk M8 bolts, this thing is not going anywhere. So when we're not using the table, it's just that really small bracket on the bench. But when we are, you install this vertical piece, and then normally Lagun has this horizontal janky thing. I threw that away, and instead I lathed out the inside of this piece of stainless steel to be exactly the right diameter, so that now my table just goes vertically straight onto the Lagun mount. And here's the table itself. Goose Gear made this while they did the interior. And you can see, because they mounted it off center, depending on how you rotate it, the table gets closer or further away from each person on each side. I think it's going to be great. The next job on my list you see me working on here is a catch for the door to stop it blowing around in the wind. And the Arctic Tern door does actually come with a catch, but it's a little bit flimsy, and where I'm going, I expect insane gale force winds, so I really wanted something sturdy, and I bought this stainless steel catch off Amazon. And so the idea here is I just have to drill holes through the camper and the door, and then go through all of my usual attachment method. I'll have a big aluminum spreader plate, big stainless steel countersunk bolts with nylock nuts, and then to attach everything, it's the same old. Scuff up the surface with sandpaper, wipe it all down with alcohol, activate it with my special chemical, and then use the adhesive that basically holds the whole Jeep together. This way, everything will be super strong and watertight. This thing is rock solid, and it's another job ticked off my list. Time to keep at it. So we just drove across the country through a handful of states and Canadian provinces on our way to get this thing shipped to a new part of the world. I had the fridge wired up to the battery and solar panel, and I noticed on the hottest days, the area in behind the fridge was getting quite hot. I don't like that, so I'm just installing here some air vents to help make sure that the fridge and the back of the induction cooktop can breathe enough. Next on the list is a couple of safety items. I would never go anywhere without a good first aid kit and a fire extinguisher, and because we have the induction cooktop, I want it to be easily reachable from where we cook, but also so I can reach it while standing on the ground outside the door. So I decided to put it up here by the rear window, and it was just a matter of bolting through and using some nice stainless bolts and big washers. Continuing the safety theme, because we've got the diesel heater, which we're running while we're asleep, and we're cooking inside, I decided to install a small CO2 detector. This thing seems really compact, and when I test it, it certainly makes some noise, should wake us up at night. Next on the list is a convenience item that makes living out of a vehicle so much more enjoyable. I've always found that the jobs you have to do repeatedly are the ones that you should try to optimize. That way you waste less time doing those things and you have more time to do the things you actually want to do while you're in the place. Maybe it's look at elephants or waterfalls or go hiking, whatever it is. So for me, that means having a really convenient cutlery holder. I don't want to have to dig through a drawer and then open a Tupperware and move stuff out of the way to get to my most often used items. So in all my previous builds, I make a cutlery holder like this. I've got all the things we use day to day, and I'm going to attach them to the inside of the 2 doors right underneath the sink, right in the main cooking area. So all you need to do is open a door and you get quick access to all of these things. Of course, one was so successful, I decided to make a second one on the other door, and it has things that we use fairly often, but not as often. And of course, the things you choose to put in yours totally depend on what you like to cook and what tools or what cutlery you use the most. But here's what we did for us, and already we're using this 3 times a day, every single day. Next item on the list, we need to make the area behind the kitchen bench a bit more durable and waterproof. We're cooking all our meals and we want to make sure things don't get dirty or wet. So I got this stick-on tile backsplash from Amazon, and you can see Katie's dad Mike here is helping me cut it to size. The idea is we just stick it on and everything now will be waterproof and a bit more durable. You can also see there, Katie convinced me to put up a painting. I'm a minimalist, I'd rather not have the weight, but it is really nice to have a painting from a friend of ours that remind us where we come from. These little touches start to turn it from being more of an agricultural Jeep into our actual house that we're going to live in long term. On a similar note, we want it to be really warm and cozy inside, so Katie and her mum sewed up curtains to separate the living area from the front cabin. I think the front glass will lose a lot of heat, and so this should help us keep it inside and keep the box darker from the sun and warmer as well. I spent a long time thinking about the floor in this Jeep. I want it to be comfortable, I want a bit of sound and heat insulation, and there's a few different options, but I decided to go with this gym matting. It's just that rubberized stuff that snaps together. I think it's going to add quite a bit of heat insulation, some sound insulation, and it makes it a lot more comfortable to walk around inside without shoes on because it's actually spongy. And I got one here that has kind of a wood grain texture to it, so it just looks nice. And I was also careful. I bought one that's only 3/8 of an inch thick rather than the regular 1/2 inch so that the cabinet doors don't actually foul on it and everything still works fine. And you can see here, for some reason, I worked well past midnight in the dark trying to get this done. But in the end, I think it was really worth it. And it was really satisfying to actually finish it and get this tiny last piece done. There are a lot of jobs on my list, but dare I say, it's starting to really feel like a house inside. Next up, I need some interior lighting for when we're camping and it's dark. So I bought this LED light stripping, and it's kind of cool. You can just solder on wires anywhere you want and cut it to length. So I did a little bit of a test, and even 2 inches of it is extremely bright. I definitely don't need to stick the entire thing on as one continuous strip. So what I've decided to do is make up these little pigtails and stick one in behind each of the bed brackets, so the lighting is kind of indirect. And here you can see what it looks like. It's pitch dark outside, and this is how much difference it makes. I've got a switch on the driver's side that controls the 3 on that side, and then I added another switch bank on the other side to control the 3 over there. And so there's my switch bank, and you can see it makes a huge difference to light up down below without actually getting light in your face. I'm really happy with how this worked. Next on the list is a few traditional Jeep mods. I did extend the breather hoses on the front and rear diff, the transfer case and the transmission, although I didn't film rolling around underneath because I've done it so many times before. In a similar vein, I always like to run an air compressor, and this is the little ARB single compressor. I ran the same one around Africa, I ran the same one in Australia. These are great. They're not the most expensive, they're not the heaviest, and they're not the fastest, but they are extremely reliable and they get the job done. That's why I like them so much. In the past, I've always mounted them under the hood, but the Eco Diesel engine takes up a lot of space under the Jeep hood, and it's really complicated to mount one. It requires modifying way more stuff than I want to. So this time, I've decided to go for an under-seat mount from 813 Fabrications. This is just a really nicely machined piece of aluminum that fits perfectly under either the driver's seat or the passenger seat, and it'll fit a variety of compressors. The ARB single, the twin, the Val Air one, there's a bunch of different options you can use. And it comes with this really nice switch panel that you mount to the side of whichever seat you've decided to mount it on. So you do need to drill a couple of holes, run some bolts through, and then your compressor and all the switch and the actual plug-in for it are right there next to your seat. I think this is a great idea, and it uses up the space under the seat that otherwise would be kind of wasted. The kit from 813 Fabrications is really comprehensive too. It comes with a stainless steel braided hose, all of the fittings and all the little connections you need to kind of remote mount this thing and have the switch and the plug-in separate from the compressor. Instructions are great, and it went together really quickly and easily. I should add too, you don't have to take your seat right out to mount this thing. I just did because it was already out for the water tank. And so here's the finished product, and you can see I'm actually using it to help hold the water tank in. I think it's going to be great to stop the tank sliding forwards or backwards. On the Jeep I drove around Africa, I had zip storage above the driver's and passenger seat. It was a great place to store maps and paperwork, and I really couldn't live without them. This company called Hazard 4 make a similar product for the standard Jeep and Gladiator hardtop. These are molded, they Velcro up there, and you can zip them open to put things inside them or store stuff on the outside like I have there. Still up front in the driving compartment, I've got these mounts from Off-Roam to mount my phone, my GPS, and my GoPros. So these are really slick little brackets that pick up factory Jeep screws, and these things are rock solid, they don't vibrate at all. Check out Off-Roam, they make these for a variety of different vehicles and different configurations. I'm really happy how simple and slick this is. Still up the front, I decided to replace the extended rear view mirrors I was running. These things are made by K-Source, they're called Zap and Snap, and they just clip over the factory mirrors, and they are huge, they're way taller than my old ones, and they don't vibrate at all. These will be fantastic. While I was mounting a USB outlet at the back, I also mounted a 110 volt outlet that's powered straight off the inverter. I think it's a great space right here by the kitchen bench to run anything that we need in the kitchen. After living in the camper for a week, we really wanted cushions for the bench seat. So I ordered this from Off-Roam, the same company that made the bed mattress. They'll make any shape and size you want, including little cutouts like that to avoid whatever you have going on in your vehicle. So these cushions are 2-inch high-density foam with exactly the same nice soft cover and durable bottom as the bed mattress has. These things are really comfortable. I'm actually sitting on them right now to record this voiceover. And to make it as cozy as possible, we threw in some pillows. They're really nice to lean against. And so I know a ton of you are wondering, what's this thing actually like to live with? How does it really function to lift the roof and the bed and all of that? So I'll show you now, and this is all real time. I'm not speeding up anything at all. I want to give you a feel for what it's like to set up camp. Because as I said earlier, the jobs that you have to do every single day, you want them to be fast, you want them to be efficient, so you're not wasting all of your time doing things like setting up and tearing down your whole sleep setup. So after I've opened the 4 latches on the outside, I climb inside and basically just push on the front part of the roof that is not covered by the bed. And I have to make sure I leave the windows open or a door open for the amount of air that needs to rush inside to account for the increased volume. Once it's up, I push these bars across and that locks out the bifold mechanism and makes sure the roof can't fall down. The back is already mostly up without me even pushing on it. The gas struts do that for me. So at this point, I have to climb up onto the bed and then reach over and do this bifold mechanism as well and lock it into place. A little bit finicky with one hand while holding the GoPro, but actually not so bad. I really like to open these windows up just to get a bit of breeze right away. And you can see immediately the bed is ready to go. We could go to sleep right now. This is how long it took to get us ready to go to sleep. Pretty fast, actually. And then when I stand up on the camper floor, because the bed is 60 inches wide, that's how much space we have to stand up and walk around even when the bed's in place, or to climb up onto the bed. Now to get the bed out of the way, basically all I do is push it up and attach it to the roof. If you remember in the solar panel episode, I installed some footman loops on the underside of the roof. Those are what I'm just about to clip the bed onto using these carabiners. And there's no doubt about it, I could have made this more efficient. I like to say that this is Dan engineering, not Michael engineering. That's why this isn't slick. No doubt I could have a block and tackle, I could have some pulleys, I could have one rope that I pull on and all 4 corners go up at the same time. I think there's a ton of different ways you could do this, but what I decided to do was get something that was workable and that we could get out and start using and find out what we think. And I have to make a decision. Do I want to have an extra piece of bed platform that fills in the gap? That will make the bed wider, or if we slept in the other direction, it would make the bed longer, which would be nice. But then it means one person can't climb down while the other one's in bed. It means the heat from the diesel heater won't get up there as well. There's a few negatives to that option. So I wanted to try this first to see how it worked. And there it is. I did one end, then the other end, and now the bed is up against the roof. And that's how much standing room I have. I'm 6'2" tall, so plenty of space, and it gives us basically the whole volume now to stand up and walk around in. And if you were wondering, this is why we put the windows as low as we did in the canvas, so that the bed can live up there and doesn't block access to those two zips. So there we go. The build of the ice cream truck is complete. And obviously I'm sitting inside right now. It is kind of wintry and cold outside. There's snow on the mountains. And to be honest, this is a vehicle that I dreamed of having, to be able to stand up like this, walk around inside of a vehicle. It doesn't matter if it's raining or snowing outside, doesn't matter what's going on. We can cook, we've got running hot water. This really is a dream come true, and I hope you've enjoyed the build series. I did my best. I spent a lot of time filming and editing this whole process. I wanted to show you guys what goes into a build like this. And yes, it has taken a really long time. Michael and I first started talking about this almost 3 years ago. He'd already been working on it before that. It was more than a year ago that we cut this in half with an angle grinder. Yes, projects like this has been a lot more work even than I thought it was going to be. And I kind of knew how much work it was going to be. So if you're thinking about a project like this, don't be deterred, but just remember, it's a big undertaking. It'll take a lot of time and it'll cost more than you think it will. But the end result, I am obviously extremely happy with. You know, my family and I, we can go adventuring around the world now and be warm, dry, comfortable, no matter where we are on the planet, no matter what the weather outside this living box is doing. That's a pretty incredible thing and a dream come true. And for sure, I'll be updating you guys on how all the systems are going. We've been living in it full time now for almost 3 weeks, and it's going really well. We've cooked every meal, we've slept in it every night. Things are working really well. The hot water's great, the induction is great. We have plenty of battery capacity. The lowest I've ever seen it go is 50%, so perfectly happy with that. The Jeep's running great, as I knew it would. We've had it in low range a bunch of times, done some off-roading. Everything is just working really well. And so I have to, at this point, say thanks to a lot of people who helped make this project possible. This has been obviously a massive undertaking, and I couldn't do it by myself, not even remotely close. And so, of course, Michael Fuchs has to be the biggest and the #1 thanks. This is his dream, this is his project, he's the genius. I was just the work experience kid on some of the work, but Michael did all of the design, all of the engineering, and he fabricated the box, most of it handmade by him. The guy is a genius. If you're not already following him on Instagram, check it out, Wabi Sabi Overland. Who knows what he's going to get up to next? I bet it's going to be interesting, whatever it is. And on that note too, Michael's wife, Yvonne, they invited me into their house and I lived with them for a few months while we built this thing. And not only was that extremely kind of them, and, you know, did I learn so much about building this thing and fabricating with composites, we just genuinely became friends, and they are just genuinely nice people. And they both worked at NASA previously. They've both done private aerospace stuff. And so for me, it was a dream come true to be able to, like, at one point, you know, we're turning wrenches, installing the winch on my Jeep. And then I could just turn to Michael or Yvonne and be like, so what was it like when you were turning wrenches on the space shuttle? And they would just tell stories about that. Oh, you know, this one time this thing happened and then we got a project and we had to improve. It was incredible, and I actually genuinely had the time of my life, not only because I resulted in this Jeep, but also just becoming friends with Michael and Yvonne. And I really hope we can get on an adventure at some point and get the two Jeep campers out together on adventure. So huge thanks, Michael and Yvonne. And then, of course, tons of other people have been part of this as well. Dave Harrington from AEV might just be the world's busiest guy. He always had time for my questions. He always was willing to help out. He even made time when I was in Missoula for us to meet up and get the two Jeeps together. His original Outpost 2 and this one. So big thanks to Dave and the whole team at AEV. Those guys are incredible. And then, of course, Goose Gear, Brian and the whole team, they pulled out all the stops on this interior. And what an interior it is already. Not only does it look great, but it is extremely functional for us to live in. You know, like I said, we've cooked every single meal. We have everything we own in here right now, and it's working out really well. Of course, I've been working with Yokohama for many years now. Those guys are helping to get me on the road. Renogy Solar, I hit them up so many times with questions about the charge controller, about how to wire things. They were always quick at getting back to me. Same story for Guzzle H2O, helping me out with the water system. Andreas and the team at Expedition Upfitters with all of the plumbing stuff. The guys at Espar, the diesel heater. Katie and I were just saying, actually, we couldn't do this trip without the diesel heater. It just wouldn't be possible. It's too cold. So incredible to have that on board. My brother helped out a lot. Katie's dad, Mike, helped out a lot. And Katie's mum sewed up the curtain with Katie. There are a ton of people who helped out with this. And of course, you guys too, on YouTube, I many times put out questions, you know, should I go with a vertical pop top? Should I have a wedge pop top? And you guys came back with really great reasons and insight and pros and cons. And that really helped me make a lot of decisions. So thank you to you guys as well. Thanks to Mario at AT Overland, world's second busiest guy, helped me out with, you know, the whole bifold mechanism. He had plenty of time to show me around his Altera camper, talk about the shower, talk about the heater situation, all of that stuff. Again, there's people out there, they have a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience, and they know what they're doing, and they know it because they've lived it and they've learned the hard lessons, and they've spent hundreds and hundreds of nights out camping in various setups, and they can say, oh, well, if you do that, you're going to have this problem. Instead, you should do this other thing. That kind of experience is invaluable. So to everyone in the Overland community that's helped me out, unbelievable, huge thanks. I just simply wouldn't be here without you guys. And then of course, my supporters on Patreon, they've been getting behind the scenes content, early access. They're very up to date with where we are in the world right now and exactly what we're up to. So if you did want to get behind the scenes content, jump over to Patreon. There is a link in the description. And of course, if you've got any questions, or if I didn't show you something on this build that you would like to learn more about, leave a comment down below. I do my best to reply to every comment. I genuinely want to help people get out there on the road. That is currently what really excites me, and you know, something that I love doing. That being said, we are in a new part of the world right now. We are on adventure. It snowed on us just yesterday. No spoilers, but the big announcement is coming very shortly. Adventures over here are epic, and I cannot wait to show you guys where we are and the kinds of adventures we're getting up to. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, now is the time. There are tons of adventure videos incoming, putting this thing to the test, living in it full time, adventuring in a new part of the world. All of that is coming very, very soon. Thanks for watching. It's been an incredible build series, easily the best Overland vehicle that I've ever had and that I've ever built. And I'm immensely proud of what we've created, we being everyone who helped me along the way. And now I'm just extremely excited to get out there and put it to the test. Let's go for it. Have fun out there, and maybe I'll bump into you on the road.